Hi there, this is Marty from owingsart.com, and today we're going to take a look at these P.H. Martin's Hydrus watercolors. These are highly concentrated watercolors, and they kind of defy categorization. They're not quite like any watercolor you've ever used because they're so concentrated, because the pigments are so bright and vivid, but they're not really an ink either, or they're not categorized as an ink. If you go to their P.H. Martin website, it doesn't say they're inks at all. It just says they're highly concentrated watercolors. But for purposes of characterization, these kind of fall into the ink category for me. They're non-toxic, acid-free, super versatile. They go in a brush. You can use them with a brush, a pen, an airbrush. These are light fast. So unlike the Dr. P.H. Martin's the Radiant watercolors, which I just reviewed a little while ago, you can check the site for that. These are light fast. Here's some of the materials I'll use today as I demonstrate and put these watercolors through their paces. Watercolor inks, that's what I'm going to call it. So I'm going to start out with this Canson watercolor board. I'll use a couple of different brushes here, including a filbert and a round. They're just small ones. And we'll test each one of these colors out. And then later on, I'll do a drawing demonstration just because it's good to put them to use. And since they are light fast, I don't mind investing the time and creating a little art with them. All right, well, the first thing I like to do is lay these out in a palette. So I've got a plastic palette here and some clean water. That's important too, that the water is clean. And now we'll go ahead and just a tiny drop, like I put down here, a tiny drop really goes a long way with these. You don't need a ton because the pigment is so strong and so concentrated, and these are so bright and vivid. I mean, look at that carbon black, the way that just went down. I mean, that's outstanding. If you've ever used watercolors before, if you're new to them, a lot of times you'll use a black and it'll be more like a Payne's gray, or it's not strong. But with these colors, you can see how bright and vivid and just bam, they just pop off the page. Not unlike the Dr. P.H. Martin Radiance, but those again are not light fast, whereas these are. So that's a distinct and great advantage, because if you're going to create a work of art, you might want it to stick around more than a few years. So here, you look at the reds here. I mean, how bright they are. There's 12 total colors in this set, and there's 3 different sets, so you get a total of 36 colors in a line. And here I'm just going through mixing some colors. Here's a list of all the colors that come in this particular set labeled Set A. But I'm just mixing some yellows and blues to get the greens, some red and blue to get a violet. And here again, I'm going to mix some reds and browns to try to get sort of an Indian red. I like mixing the colors to see what kind of colors you can create. So here I've just done a light outline in pen of a daisy. And I'm going to go ahead and start to demonstrate the colors here. So I'll start out with this yellow light, it's called. It's a very nice, bright, vivid yellow. And you can dilute the colors a little bit by just adding a little bit of water. You don't have to put them down in their concentrated form if you don't want to. But again, that's sort of the advantage of using these, is that they're so concentrated. Either that or just a tiny drop will last you, a couple paintings. So you can get maybe a couple paintings worth of work out of just a drop or two of these highly concentrated colors. All right, time for a little video within a video. So sometimes people will ask me, what artists do you reference, or what books do you go to? And I just wanted to point out a quick book that I really like. It's this book here, Sketch, by Francie Belville Van Stone. And she's just really great at taking you through the very basics, not only in equipment, but just technique, some of the things that are overlooked by more advanced teachers or people who do YouTube videos and things like that. So this book just contains a wealth of information about drawing and what materials you should use to draw with, or you can use. And she just walks you through all of it, and she draws it all and sketches it all, which I think is just extraordinarily cool. And so So like here's a technique page where she takes you through the technique that's used. Again, the book is called Sketch. It's by Francie Belleville Van Stone. It's her name, it's France, but I'm not sure if that's Francie or France. But anyway, either way, it's a great book, and I reference it often. I mean, like, and if you want to get to advanced technique, I mean, there's an example right there where it's a lot more advanced. And then there's just really fun sketches of everyday objects in here, faces, people, objects you wouldn't expect to draw. And she's really great at drawing cars. So cars are kind of her thing. These little automobiles are fascinating. I'll just show you a few quick pictures of those. And so I use this book all the time. I just go through it and reference the material and read what she has to say about just sketching and just how to sketch these cool little things. And then I was thinking when I was doing this Radiant review, this would be a great companion to these paints, these Hydrus paints, I'm sorry, and the Radiant paints as well, to just go out and sketch in your book with. So just a quick plug for that book there, and now back to the review. So here, just adding a little contrast around this daisy, just to make it jump out a little bit. And this is fun. I love using these paints. They're so concentrated that you have to sort of work at toning them down. But I really love how they go on and how vibrant they can make a painting. I can think of just tons of uses, not only in my sketching and my thumbnails, but also in finished work. So just the colors are just so darn vivid. You don't need a lot, like I said, but if you do want to concentrate them and get that bam, that color that just jumps off the page, then these are the inks for you, or paints, if you will. So I kind of like the way this daisy came out. It's kind of happy. I like a happy flower, and it reminds me of summer. And in the dead of winter, where I'm right now, that's pretty helpful. To remember that sunny days are ahead. So this is just kind of a top view of what I just did. And I'm using some violets in the dark areas. You don't always have to use like black or gray. So like when you learn the range of cools and warms, it helps to mix it up a little bit. And instead of just having like a black color, cool it down a little bit with some blue or violet or colors like that, or you could warm it up a little bit with a red or an orange. So you can even make warm violets and cool violets. And so I don't know everything about color theory, of course, but I know enough to be a little bit dangerous. So anyway, my happy daisy is looking better and better. So a few moments on some of the different properties of these watercolors. So they're meant to be archival, which means they're going to last a while anyway. Who knows how long that really is, but a while. They're also light fast, and in my test they held up pretty well to a 4-hour direct sunlight test, and I didn't see actually any fading at all. So that's a good indicator, because usually I'll see some fading right away. They're non-toxic. They're really transparent. So as I laid the color down and let it dry and then went over it with another color, I was able to, really feel that transparency at work. So that's a big bonus when you talk about watercolor painting and being able to have this kind of vibrancy with that kind of transparency. It's just really extraordinary, I think. And thank you, science, for that, because these are awesome. So the Dr. P.H. Martin people claim that these are 25 to 50% more brilliant than standard watercolors. And I would say they're probably right about that, at least so far as my experience so far with these. They're amazing. I'm actually shocked, I'm surprised, and if you know me and you know the channel, I've literally reviewed hundreds and hundreds of different art materials and pencils and watercolors and oil paints over the last several years, and these are really, these just stand out as some of the best watercolors I've ever used, if that's what they are. If they're ink, that's a different category, and if we're calling them ink, okay, but I mean, I don't care what you call them, they're awesome. So call them ink, call them watercolors, but whatever you call them, they're pretty spectacular. They're a bit on the pricey side at $65 for a set like this, but when you think about what you can do with these and how little you actually have to use to get the effect that you want, and I think the value proposition is pretty good overall. One thing I was really enjoying with these is that they're really intermixable. So I could use these with other watercolor paints I have, or just mixing among the colors that I do have. Buying this set of 12 watercolors actually made me want to go out and buy the other 2 sets so that I have all 36, because I'd love to have the expanded palette. But I'll have to save up for those because, like I mentioned, they are kind of expensive. But at any case, at any rate, these are pretty spectacular, all things considered. Just thinking for a minute about the comparison between these Hydrus and the Radiance, both by Dr. P.H. Martin. The Radiance are, they're temporary, they're transient, they're meant to be used in mock-ups or stuff that you're not going to save or isn't going to be archival, storyboards, things like that, or just maybe in a sketchbook. The thing that I see is that both are comparable in terms of the rich vibrancy and the pigment, the really strong color. They both are very, very close in that regard. As a matter of fact, I don't notice a huge difference at all. Maybe someone with a better eye could see that difference, but I just don't. Both of them just bang, they just pop right off the page. They're just super, super vibrant. But the thing with the Hydrus is, the reason they're a better value, even though they cost a little bit more, is because they are archival. They will last, they are light fast, which means that you can do finished work with them. It means that you can be confident that when you paint something, and if you really like it, you want to hang it up, and there happens to be incandescent or UV light in the room, you don't have to worry about it fading away the way it would with, say, a Radiant or a lower end watercolor paint. The closest these come to watercolor paints in terms of vibrancy and just vivid color is probably like a Daniel Smith or a Schmenka, or maybe if you're talking about watercolor pencils, maybe a Caran d'Ache Museum Aquarelle pencil, or something of that nature, like a Derwent Inktense. Although the Inktense by Derwent's aren't very light fast, they do create some very vivid, very bright colors. And this will put you in the mind of that, only about 10 to 15 times stronger. So yeah, it's that noticeable. I mean, you can see it here yourself, but the color just jumps off the page and it's unbelievable. I just super impressed with these. Really happy to have found them and get the recommendation from YouTube subscribers to go out and check them out. And having compared both the Radiant and the Hydrus, I prefer the Hydrus for sure, because I know that if I do create something that I want to keep, that it'll last. But I also like the Radiance for the fact that I don't have to worry, and I only have to use a tiny, teeny tiny drop of this paint to just create crazy vivid color. Well, it's just about time for the final rankings, and these are going to blow away a lot of the previous rankings I had, whether you call them ink or liquid watercolor or whatever. They are outstanding. So color 9, layering 8, pigment 9, transparency 8, light fastness 8, permanent 7.5, overall value 8.5, with an overall score for these Hydrus watercolors of 8.5, one of the highest rankings I've ever given out. You can pick these up for 65 bucks at my friend's art store at wetpaintart.com. Just tell them Marty sent you and they'll hook you up and send them out to you. what a great experience with these PH Martins today. I really enjoyed using them. I know you will in your artwork as well, and just a really outstanding value overall. If you haven't done so, please sign up and subscribe to the channel. Feel free to comment or ask questions. I love responding to those, and if you found value in this video, please share it. Well, this has been a look at the Dr. P.H. Martin's Hydrus Fine Art Liquid Watercolors. I'm Marty for owingsart.com. So long, everybody.